So good evening and welcome everybody. Tonight is the 6th of 6 online faculty meetings with the student teachers. We're excited that your internship is wrapping up and we'll be seeing you soon, but there's some things that we wanted to share with you tonight before next week, as well as share with you on budget. So I hope you've all brought your questions to share with Mr. Steinfeld, because as in the past few weeks, we do have an expert with us. We have Mr. David Steinfeld from Athens High School. He teaches with Miss Sarah Beth Royer, who you can see in the background there in his computer screen. Sarah Beth student taught there, and she's helped Mr. Steinfeld set up today. And I invited her to stay and join us if she wanted. She has some things to take care of, but she's going to be in the room, she said. So. With that, I'm going to pass the mic off to, I'm going to pass off the mic to Mr. Steinfeld. And I need to, did I share my screen? I didn't even share my screen, did I? No. So without further ado, I'll let Mr. Steinfeld start.
Okay, so I guess one of the first things with budgeting is to try to find out from your school, if you're going to go to a school, to find out what the previous year's budget was, or if there is a budget as well. Some of the things that I do, I know Kayla's looking for maybe some specific things. I think she sent something about how do I know what's a consumable, or what do we use as equipment and that kind of stuff. Our school puts a money limit on those items. And it's pretty much up to my discretion to use whatever category I think that is. But it depends a lot on your school and what the resources are that you have there, and how much support you have from your school district as well. We're lucky here. We have really good support. So my budget here is usually anywhere around $13,000 to $15,000, depending on what we're trying to do. So some other schools I know have way smaller budgets, and some have bigger budgets than we have, but that's what we have here. It took a long time. I've been teaching here. I talked to Dr. Rice for 15 years. I've been teaching here now, and for what we have now to what we had then, there's quite a big difference, a world of difference. So I don't know what you guys want me to share. I can share the information that I showed you, Dr. Rice, if you want, or if anybody has questions to maybe start with. I don't know how you want to start with all this, but.
Let's go ahead, and you go ahead and kind of show how what you presented with to me, and I think that might generate more questions.
All right. So let's look at, this is pretty much our purchase requisition that we use. Can you see it? Everybody can see it? Did I share it?
Did you hit the share screen button?
Let me go back. I think I did, but let's do it again.
There it goes.
Now you got it? Okay. So this is our form that we use here to submit all of our purchase requisitions. We have to fill this out for everything that we want. Anything at all. Magazines, newspapers, any equipment, anything at all, we have to put it on here. This is not the same form that I use for maybe requesting like transportation or something like that, but this is what we use for purchasing any items that we'd be using in our shop or in the greenhouse or anything like that for our hydroponic stuff. So I was telling Dr. Rice that a lot of these probably ask for the same information. They probably don't look exactly the same, but they probably all ask for the same information. And what is pretty important with us is that we get, of course, the quantity that you want, whatever it is that you want, like a description, and then we put a price and the total cost. And then over here, putting in the function, they call it, or building number for this. They have specific numbers for like equipment, and we have specific numbers for maybe consumables and things for on online resources and that kind of stuff, like AgEdNet costs whatever a year, $350 a year for Pennsylvania. So we use this as our form to fill in, to turn in. And budgets are due, like we started working on ours in November. So we have to plan a whole year and a half out almost to start thinking about what we're going to have at least a year in advance of what we want and what we need. And sometimes that's very hard to do in December when the budget is due. So the other thing that I wanted to share is I have this in Excel document. I actually borrowed this or got it from our technology guys next door a couple years ago, but it's kind of nice because I can put in here all my account numbers on the side and include that, and then I can put a list of vendors with whatever the item was that I purchased. I can put the date that I purchased it, and then I can put like a starting amount for each one of the different items. So for instance, on this 1350 513, it says contracted carriers, which is our bus companies. We start out with a budget. Whoops, I just made that really big. But we start out with a budget of like $4,900, and then I can put in there, I spent this much money, this is how much we have left. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that with that type of information. And I'd be willing to share this. It's just an Excel file. Like we could share this with you guys, anybody that would want to try to use it. It's pretty user friendly. So it's really easy to do. Let's see here. Those are the only two items really that I had that I wanted to share with you guys. If there's anything else, I can try to get it together, but that Excel file helps out a lot. Especially the reason that I use it is because what I have sometimes that I purchased or bought is not the same as what the business office has. So I have usually every time I make an order, I say, okay, please send me a quote, and then I submit that quote to the business office. So I have a copy of it, they have a copy of it, and I can put it on this Excel file. And then probably every 9 weeks, every quarter, I go on there and I check to make sure that what they have is the same as what I have. And that sometimes they're way off and it got put into a different account somewhere that it shouldn't be. So you got to be kind of careful in how you do that, I guess. So does anybody have any questions about that, or anybody?
Any questions based off of what he just shared?
I know that Kayla had asked about her equipment and consumable stuff, so I didn't know if there was something that she wanted to bring up about that, or.
Well, I pretty much feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm starting from ground zero. So, like what, I don't know, like how, like a couple of examples of how you divvy that up, like consumables versus equipment, and like on an average year, or like say a year that you're going to buy some equipment, will you spend more of that budget on like bigger equipment? Say like you're doing an ag mech class, so you buy a bunch of propane tanks that year, you buy a bunch of tanks that year, or you buy a welder that year if you're doing welding. So I'm like, how do you go about some of that and differentiating, knowing like, oh, I'm going to need flowers in the spring, but I don't, like, I'm not going to order those in August,
Right. So I guess what I do is when I first started here, I knew that I was going to be teaching some ag mechanics things, and I just said, okay, I need some new welders. And they said, well, here's how much money you have, break it up how you want. So what I did is I went and I got quotes for like 2 brand new welders, and I submitted those quotes in and figured it all into the budget. So, okay, I needed new welders. I'm going to need welding electrodes, which are consumables. So then I would put some money away for consumables on the side, and then try to decipher, okay, how am I gonna spend all this money and where do I need to spend it at first. So like you said, all right, I'm going to order flowers, but I don't need them in August. I need them in March or whenever. So I do the same thing. Like I put in a budget for our greenhouse outside that says, okay, for you, it's going to be hard because you've never done it before. But for me, like last year, I spent $600 on flowers or whatever it was and vegetable plants. So I budget for that in December and January, but I don't actually take any money out of there until the flowers come. So like I'll submit the bill and say, okay, they're going to be sent and whatever. They're not going to be ordered. So I guess it might depend on your school, but I would be willing to bet that your school or your new school that you're going to in Honesdale probably will be willing to work with you on that and just say, okay, I'm going to order these things, because I do the same thing for the shop. I budget for 2 oxygen cylinders and 2 mixed gas cylinders every year. And then I'm like, I don't need these right now. So they're like, okay, just submit the bill when they come, and then they take it off, because our budget year is probably the same as everybody else's from July 1 to June 30. So then as that stuff comes in, you can then submit the bills. Does that help at all, or? Okay.
David, I really appreciate you sharing your expertise there. Question I have is, talk to me about how you've gained access to other funds in your school building beyond your budget lines. And an example that I might bring up would be most schools I know have a textbook fund.
Yes. That is all in our, we can ask for that in our budget. Like we have it broken down into 7 or 8 different categories, and textbooks is one of the categories. And then we have online resources, we have transportation, we have equipment, we have consumables, and all that is broken down. So on all those categories. So basically what they do at the beginning of the year is say, okay, do you need new textbooks this year? And if you do, which they're kind of going away from textbooks, a lot of people are using more online sources and that kind of stuff. You know, like we can buy different programs, like CASE might be an example where you don't really need a lot of textbooks or a textbook really at all. So they're looking for us to try to use more online things. They'll still buy textbooks, but they want to try to do more online. So like our SAE stuff with AET, they love that because there's no textbook, but there's a lot of teaching material that you can get from using the resources on AET.
And so did they purchase that for you?
AET is purchased for us because they pay for our FFA membership.
Very good.
Okay. Now, it didn't used to be that way. Our FFA chapter used to pay our membership, our affiliate fee, that we paid that. And now I tell them, okay, instead of us charging, say, $3,000 of transportation, how about you guys pay for our FFA membership affiliate fee, and then we'll pay for some of the transportation out of the FFA account. So it kind of works that way, I guess. So it's kind of nice that we can do that.
I guess, Mr. Steinfeld, can you talk a little bit about, I think some of the student teachers may benefit from talking about thinking back to maybe whenever your first couple years of teaching and how you decided what was the most important to purchase first. And you may have touched on this a little bit, but as they go into new positions, new programs, and just where they should dedicate, making sure they put money aside because that will be something that's used, or how they can kind of put it in one fund that can kind of go all over if they have to you know, identify where funds are going right off the bat.
Right.
If that makes
So
sense.
I guess for that, when I first came here, I knew that I was going into a program that had a lot of ag mechanics stuff in it. And there was only, like when I started here, there was about 40 kids in the ag program. And now up through last year, right after we hired Sarah Beth, we're up to like 160 kids in the ag program. So I wanted to grow the program, and I knew the way to do that was that I was kind of lucky because we were doing building renovation at the same time. So our old shop got turned into this brand new shop. So they were asking, what can we put in there? And I got to know some of the students, I guess. And I asked, okay, what do you guys do in the past and what do you want to do in the future? And we went from there. And I said, okay, we don't have a MIG welder here. If they want to do MIG welding, we need a MIG welder. I talked to people in the community. What kind of things do you need as an employer of students that might be graduating from the high school? What do you want them to know? So then I went and I decided, okay, I need to purchase things for the ag mechanics, and we need to purchase some things for our greenhouse, because we do have quite a few places around that have landscape businesses and other greenhouses and things like that in our area. So that's where I focused most of the money on to start with. I think it is important that probably if you're going to go into a new area, you really need to get to know the demographic of that area and then figure out what the need is for how you're going to get your students trained so that they can go right into a job after high school. Because if our school might be somewhat the same as everybody else's, but I don't have a ton of kids that think that they want to go to college. They want to go right out into the workforce. They want to try to do something to earn money. That's all that students seem to be really concerned about right now, is making money instead of trying to go to college and think a little further than graduation. But yeah, I mean, they get to know your demographics, I think, is the big thing. And then what is important in your area, you know, agriculturally, how you going to put your kids in a position that they can get a job right out of school. So that's what I kind of went with, I guess. And that's the way that I still kind of think and use that. So.
Student teachers, you have someone here who's been teaching 15 years and who has dealt with a lot of budgets. And so now's your time to ask questions as you move from student teacher to teacher and having to facilitate a budget and manage a budget.
So I think I have one question. How do you go about keeping, you know, kind of your FFA money separate than your consumables and equipment money? If you could just talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Our FFA money is totally separate from our budgeted money from the school district, because we have a student accounts person in the high school. They take care of and handle all of the student accounts for like FFA or FBLA. All of our clubs and organizations goes through the office account up in our main office. We have our FFA student treasurer, who they've been working at doing a lot of different things, and that they come down and I can handle them, give them money, and I can give them bills, and they take it to the office and they can get it taken care of. But there is a form that we fill out for all that stuff too. We have to fill out a form anytime that we're going to deposit money or take money out. And the way that we just keep it separate is as the office account. I mean, the harder part is, I was talking to Dr. Foster about our STEM building. We got a grant from Tractor Supply that goes directly into our FFA account, but I want that $2,500 designated to go towards our STEM building and not to be used to go to a conference or to pay for travel somewhere. So trying to keep that separated is a little bit more challenging than that. But to answer your question, I guess the main thing is we have two different locations that we can keep track of, keep the FFA money, and to keep our regular budgeted classroom money totally separate. Oh yeah. The other thing was too, Sarah Beth just reminded me, like if you guys, I don't know how much you play around with AET at all, but AET has a like a management module in there for your chapter treasurer to go in and access. And you can put a lot of different things in there too. Like they have access to it, I have access to it. We can go in and try to keep track, and that's an excellent way to make sure that we are using the FFA money the way that we want to, and that it also corresponds with what the office has. So there's two different ways to check and keep track of money there too. It's really nice, especially for like fundraisers and that kind of stuff. We can put all that in AET, and then we can pull it up and we can say, okay, if they want to do a chapter meeting in the treasurer's report, this is how much we have in there right now. So that's kind of nice too.
Have you ever ran out of money, Mr. Seinfeld?
Have I ever run out of money? Not really. Only when I forget to take it on a trip or something that I was supposed to give kids. But no, we really, a couple years ago when we went through, well, it's been more than a couple. I don't know when the big budget crunch was in Pennsylvania. What was that, 6 or 8 years ago? When Governor Corbett, I guess, kind of took over. There was this big thing and teachers' positions were getting cut and this and that. I was really concerned that we weren't going to get the money that I thought we were going to get for that, but it turned out that it was okay. I think that having the support of your administration and the people in your school is super, super important, because one way or another, they will find money for a program that's doing well. So, and you know, I think that's probably the way it goes in a lot of other districts, but I've never run out of money. I hope I don't. If we do, we might be in big trouble. I don't know.
Whenever you are budgeting, or if you get to the end of the year and you've had some incur costs that you weren't expecting, and have you ever had a situation where you're like, I have to decide where I need to allocate money or where I shouldn't spend money so that I have money for this, whether it be FFA or your program?
Yeah, there are some times that a couple years ago we went over budget on something that we purchased. So our school then, they did have some reserve from wherever they get it from to help pay for that. But then the next year I got less money. So I had to decide, okay, do I want to spend it? Like there's some things that you just have to buy. We do a lot of welding, so we need electrodes. We need supplies for electricity and plumbing, and we need supplies for a hydroponics lab. So I had to sit down and say, okay, what do we have enough of this year we can get by to make sure that it would all pan out in the end. FFA wise, sometimes what I do is we do all of our fundraising stuff. We do the fruit sale, we do the strawberry sale, and we're pretty lucky because our fruit sale, we usually earn anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000 from the fruit sale, and we get around $3,000 from the strawberry sale typically. But I still charge students to go on trips and stuff. Like if they want to go to ACES, that's a $80 a kid conference. I make them pay $40 up front. And if they did fundraising, then we give some of that money back. And some of them might not have to pay anything at all, depending on how much they fundraise. So we give them that money back. One of the reasons that I collect $40 up front is because most of us that have been teaching, you sign kids up to go someplace and then they don't show up. So at least I have $40 of the money that I needed of the 80, and then I come back and try to get it from them. But that's what I kind of do with that.
What's the worst wreck you've ever had with dealing with kid money and parents?
I don't know if I've had a super big problem. There are a lot of times, and I'm sure this is pretty widespread across the state too, like kids can't afford to go places. If I say, hey, you need to pay $40 to go on here, like I work with them and with parents, and I tell them, hey, you know, you fundraise as much as you can by selling strawberries or by selling fruit or whatever, but I always work something out at the end. I've never really had a fallout with any parents or student. If I had it my way, I wouldn't charge kids to go anywhere for anything, but unfortunately we have to, you know. The state FFA activities week is 100 and whatever a person, $140 a person. So I do have to charge those students. I charge them $40 to go, and FFA pays 100. So I mean, that's one way that we kind of combat that a little bit. But we've had a really good fundraising year this year too. So I might not have to charge some of our students, or maybe I'm hoping that I don't have to charge this year any of the students anything to go to states. So,
Do you find that when you have the capacity not to charge, that you still try to do what I call good faith money, or no? Is that not something that you worry about? Do you say, "Hey, I want you to put a little skin in the game just so that you don't wake up with a say I don't want to go that night or that next morning"?
yeah, because sometimes I don't tell them that I'm not going to charge them anything. I'll just say, okay, you guys want to go to states, everybody pay $40, and then I'll get that money to make sure that hopefully they get on the bus. And then if they don't, or they do, then I just give it back to them. So we do the same thing at ACES. I charge them $40. If they get on the bus in the morning, I hand them back their envelope that had $40 cash in it and say, here you go. That's your spending money for stopping at McDonald's or wherever on the way down, so that the parents don't have to worry about forking out more money to go on the trip and that kind of stuff too.
Good.
Do you have some, so you said fruit sale and strawberry sale, like a manageable first year teacher, start building those funds up type fundraiser?
A different fundraiser than just,
I mean, if those are like the go-to, then
those are like the go-to ones, I think. When I first started here, we did a fruit sale. We might have earned like $2,500, but we had a lot less kids then, you know. So starting out, I think those are kind of the go-to things. The other thing that we do here is, like you said, you ordered flowers for the assignment that you have to do and stuff like that. But we have an arts fest in Athens, and our school, our class, my horticulture class, purchases in these flowers, like we're doing hanging baskets and that stuff, and then we sell them at Arts Fest for the FFA program. So, and then people come and they'll say, hey, these are really nice hanging baskets and you are not charging near enough for them. And I'm like, well, you know, we're not Lowe's or anything like that. We figure out in class how much it costs to put together a hanging basket. Okay, we're putting 6 plants in there. They cost 25 cents a piece or whatever. We put this much potting soil in there, costs about this much in each one of the pots. So by the time we get done, it costs something like $8 a basket or something like that to put it together. And if we're charging $20 or $25 a basket, I mean, we're making pretty good profit from that. But my suggestion being just first year and not taking on too much, fruit sale is probably a really good way, because a lot of people know the fruit sale. FFA is associated with the fruit sale. We picked up the strawberry sale because it's super easy. It's way easier than the strawberry or the fruit sale because it's one item. I don't have to separate all the boxes and check for their spoilage. They come in a clear plastic container that you can pick them up and say, yep, they're good, and you send them out. It's super easy. We started out, we sold maybe 80 flats 3 years ago, and this year we sold the most we ever did. We had almost 300 flats we sold this year, which there's 8 quarts in a flat. So we sold a lot of strawberries.
You know, Kayla, one thing I would do is ask the administration to provide you a list of the current fundraisers in the high school, and then see what if there's a space there. I've never thought of that or had to deal with it, but coming in with a brand new program, he said FFA's associated with fruit. Well, just make sure no one else is selling fruit, and then corner the market.
Right. Because in Canton, I know over at Tom Hodjanowski's teaching there, the track club or the track team used to sell fruit until he got control of it somehow. He got it. But anyway, that's one thing. But do double check and make sure that nobody's doing it. The other thing is, too, some schools will regulate the number of fundraisers that you can do in a year, just because the senior class is fundraising and everybody else, the band is fundraising. Like, they don't want people to feel like they're fundraised to death. So we do 3 a year, and that's it. I mean, we're probably the plant sale does well, but it doesn't do as well as the other things. And I think you need to concentrate your efforts on what's going to get you your biggest bang for your buck. Don't try to do 6 different fundraisers. Do one that does really well and forget about the rest the first year, you know.
And just remember what you were taught in 311 about connected to your curriculum. So maybe you teach a fun ag sales unit, and hey, look, it connects with when we're doing the fruit sales, and the fruit sales manager gets to help it. That'll keep your life easier. But Steinfeld's speaking truth to the notion of don't have kids running around selling candy bars all over the place.
That's right. I mean, that's the biggest thing I tell kids here, because we're doing fundraising, and I'm like, kids are like, people aren't going to buy this. I'm like, yes, they will. This is not candles. This is not candy. This is not that other garbage cups that people sell, whatever. This is stuff that people are actually going to eat, you know, and it's pretty good. So, you know, that's one of the things that makes a big benefit for your program, for that too, I think.
Are you limited on the number of fundraisers you can do?
Yeah, we're only allowed to do 3 a year. So, I mean, we only do those 3. There are some odd and end things that we do. Like in May, we kind of do community service, but we go to Smithfield Township, and the township wants us to come, and they have a cleanup day. So all the residents of the township come and they throw their garbage and whatever, tires and whatever. We put them in dumpsters, like we unload people's cars, and then the township gives us a donation for that. So there's different things that you can do like that. We park cars at the Maple Festival in Troy. They give us $100 for that. I hate parking cars, but it's $100. So it's like a 10-acre field. People can't figure out how to park cars. But anyway, they still donate money, and it's not always about getting the money. A lot of times it's about getting your face out there and getting your FFA chapter known. You know, Bob Leib, if anybody even knows Bob Leib, maybe Laura still remembers him from way back. But he said one time, probably one of the most important things about your ag program isn't always about all the things you do in the classroom. It's more about the things that you do outside of the classroom to get your program recognized, so that people know that they're supporting a good cause because your kids are out there doing things. There's not too often that you drive down the road and you see, you know, kids volunteering to do things, but a lot of times it's your FFA chapters that are out there doing things. Like we're doing a community garden up here in Sayre at the Guthrie Clinic for a group that they want us to come and help plant spring gardens, because it's something with the weight loss center. I guess the doctor will write a prescription and be like, go to the garden and get these things, and you need these things. So it's just getting your chapter out there and having the kids wearing their FFA shirts and doing that stuff that people see them, because people are like knocking on our door all the time. Like, hey, can you guys come do this? Can you come do that? And thank goodness that Sarah Beth is here, because now I get home at a decent hour and we can switch back and forth. And I told other people at the beginning of the year, my wife was like, what are you doing home? You're always like here, you're gone there, you're gone here. I'm like, oh, Sarah Beth has got this one tonight. So it's kind of nice to have 2 people too. But if you're in a single teacher department like I was when I started here, you gotta be careful that you don't bite off more than you can chew too. Like, only do what you think you can handle to start with. And it's okay to say no the first couple times until you get kids that you know are reliable, that can come and do that kind of stuff. And I know I'm getting off the budget stuff a little bit, but you know, these might be other questions. I told Dr. Rice I could talk to you guys about anything you want to talk about. So.
Hey, Kayla, I thought, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sorry. I'm using headphones again. Kayla, I thought about, we sold meat sticks. They're like from like Country Meat or something. I know it's a little bit like a candy bar, but they don't go bad like the strawberries do. And it's not as scary, I think. And if you have some of those, you get those and you have them lying around. I think at Tyrone, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think Mrs. Hoy makes a pretty good chunk with that fundraiser. I know it's a little bit like the fundraiser exhaustion, but it's just a lot safer in my experience. Like strawberries was a little scary because we had moldy ones and they had to get them out like that day and they perish really fast. And if you don't have a good fridge for them, there's like a million things to think about with strawberries. With the meat sticks, it was like you have them and they're there and then you can sell them. It just felt safer to me.
Yeah, there's some different things that you can do, but make sure you check with your school, because like we're not allowed to sell meat sticks here because it goes against whatever our policy is for the food company that we work with, some of the different things. So you got to ask about that at your school too.
And they'll also have academic concerns of using instructional time to constantly be selling food. So most principals say that they don't like that because it takes away from teaching time.
What other questions do you have?
I have a question for you, Mr. Steinfeld. How do you determine how much students get from the fundraisers? Like how much they profit?
Okay, so what I do with that is the way that I've kind of done it since the beginning is we just fundraise as much as we can. I can break it down because we use PJ's Fresh Fruit at our school. I use their computer program. I can enter in how much every student sells, and it tells me exactly on their paper that I hand them how much they profit. So I can either decide to keep track of it, how much each one profits, and then decide how I want to distribute the money. But what I usually do is I just take all of that fundraised money, we put it in one great big old pot, and then divide it up. But with the students that I do keep track of, like who sells the most. So the students that sell the most, I give them, like this year, the one girl got a free FFA Carhartt from National FFA. I keep track of all of it because at the end, when I'm saying we're going to ACES, if they fundraise over $200, they don't have to pay anything to go. If they fundraise $100, then they pay $40, and if they fundraise a certain amount, I go by that. But it's sometimes easier not to keep track of how much they all sell and just be able to kind of divvy it up, because I know that there's some kids, and you guys will all find this out if you go into teaching, but there are some kids that really, really want to do FFA stuff, but they can't fundraise a lot of money. So then I take some from the FFA account, and we're really lucky here. Our FFA account, we have on average anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 in our FFA account a lot of the time from fundraising and stuff. And I like to try to keep it. I don't like to get it any lower than like 5,000 if we don't have to, because you never know when something comes up. Like I got a student that's getting their American degree this year, but they're not fundraising anything. But I don't want to charge a kid that's getting their American degree to go to national convention. So we're going to use some of the money that we fundraise for that. And I tell the kids, you're fundraising for that trip from 9th grade all the way up through 12th grade. Like you're just, all that money that you're fundraising goes into a big pot. And at the end, this is the benefits that you're going to get out of it. So when we go to like national convention, I charge kids $200. They pay for their concert tickets, they pay for their rodeo tickets, and they pay for some of the other odd and end things. But for everything else, their hotel, their travel, everything else, we pay for. So that's what a kind of an incentive I use too for the 9th grade students. You know, if you decide that you're going to stay in the FFA program and in the ag program, here's what you get to look forward to at the end. Give them some kind of a carrot at the end to make them stay involved and get involved and do fundraising and that kind of stuff. I don't know, does that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have trouble with students wanting to fundraise, or do they pretty much know they need to do it and just do it?
No, a lot of times what they'll do is the really active ones will just do it. The other ones, sometimes you got to convince them a little bit, but then there's other times that we have fundraisers and there's kids that aren't even in the ag program that want to sell stuff, which is kind of weird to me. I'm like, what's the benefit do you get out of this? You're just like helping us out, which is fine with me. There's not enough kids that want to just help out do stuff, but they fundraise for us, and then there's like, they don't come to any meetings or they don't do that stuff, but they still want to help us fundraise, which I'm okay with. But sometimes they might want a different favor for something for a class or something like that, and I can offer them some kind of other assistance besides just being an FFA member or something like that. But that's it.
Other questions?
You talked a little bit about this, and I apologize, I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions.
No, that's okay.
Transportation wise, you mentioned something about it before, that some of it comes out of the FFA, but originally you had it coming out of your budget. If you do like vans, you have to pay for transportation. There's it different for kind of each mode of transportation.
Yeah. There's something different for each one. Like for our school van, we pay whatever the IRS rate is. So I usually budget for things like county FFA meetings or things that I know that we're going to use the van for only 6 or 7 kids, like SLLC. I'll budget for that. And I didn't mention this, maybe I should. I budget for every single trip out of the school budget every year. Like I ask for $25,000 almost every year, and I put everything in there. So then they can say, well, this is kind of a lot. Don't you think you could do without some of this? And I'm like, yeah. So then I get that $10,000 or $15,000 that I really need. But you should budget for everything in there so that they know. And then one of the reasons I do that is like, okay, this is how much it really costs to run the ag program, but this is how much the FFA can do on its own too. Because one of the things that I was really concerned about when I first got here is they were talking kind of about cutting the ag program. So the first couple years, I wanted to show that our FFA could be pretty self-sufficient. Like we were fundraising everything and paying for everything. The only thing that the school district was paying for was a teacher and some of the supplies that we need. You know, going on the trips and all that stuff, because a lot of schools are saying, well, it costs a lot of money to get a bus. Yeah, it does. It costs us $2.10 a mile to take a bus anywhere. So it costs a lot to get that. Plus you got to pay for a driver, which is like $10 an hour. So that's what we do for some of that stuff to try to keep it separated. But the van costs us the IRS rate. We just pay for that out of FFA, because a lot of times for a county meeting, it's only like $30 or whatever it is to go to Troy or something like that. If we go somewhere on a bus, there's a whole sheet that we have to fill out from the school district, because they want to know how much is going to cost and how many. There's questions on it, like how many field trips have you taken this year? And for me, it's like, I don't know, like 20. I have no idea. So if the more you can pay for some of that out of your FFA, the better sometimes. But I try to pay for everything that I can out of the school budget, if that makes sense. So I'll budget for every single trip that we take, even though I know I'm going to pay for some of that out of the FFA account. So just to show them how much it costs. And then I'll sit down and figure out, okay, who's going to pay for the most expensive trip? The school district is paying for that one. We're going to pay for the cheaper one. We're going to pay for the ones that are every month we have a county FFA meeting, or we're going to SLC and we're going to take one van. We'll pay for stuff like that. But the big ones, we try to get the school district to pay for. And it's been a little bit different this year. We just had a meeting with our principal the other day. He came down and he's like, you know, the school district pays for sports to go to regional events. How come the school district doesn't pay for FFA to go to regional events? Or how come they don't pay for FFA to go to state events? I'm like, I don't know. And he said, well, we're going to change that, and we're going to start paying for you guys to go to some of these events through there. Now, my budget took a little bit of a hit from that, because they got to take that money from my ag budget and put it into a transportation budget somewhere in the school district, in the maze of numbers and financial stuff that I don't do down at the business office. But so like next year, my budget is around $11,000, which is like $2,000 or $3,000 less. But if they put that money somewhere else, either in the principal's account or somewhere that they're going to pay for our regional competitions and for things that kids do well on where they're moving on to the next level, they're going to actually pay for that the same as they do for sports. So
I think one thing I wanted to share too, going off the transportation there, was I know here at Mifflinburg, Chuck and Lindsay both have their CDL. So whenever they go on a trip, they can just load the kids up in the bus and go. So I don't know how that is at other schools, but, if that's an option, that could really save, your chapter a lot of money. Just a thought.
yeah, I also have my CDL as well, and I drive the bus sometimes. So I drive to like Aces. The only savings in that really is I don't have to pay for a driver to be down there for Saturday morning all the way through Sunday afternoon. So we do save some money that way. But we don't have a bus here. Like if I need a bus, I still have to fill out the transportation request, and you got to do that at least 2 or 3 weeks in advance. So our school district this year just put in, what is it? I think it's 60 days. We have to put a request in if we want to go somewhere 60 days in advance. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So what I do and what we are going to do this year is we're going to put down a list of every trip that we go on, and I'm going to submit it to the school board like the first day of school and be like, here's everything that we're doing all year long, just to prove it now. So hopefully that they will do that. I don't know if they will or not, but I think they will. I don't know if the reason for that is more of a cost factor or what it was, but they wanted all of our requests because we've submitted things like Sarah Beth's taking the kids dairy judging on Monday. So we put that request in, and then sometimes we'll get something back like, we don't know if you guys can go because it wasn't 60 days in advance. I'm like, wait a minute here. We already put that in like way back however long ago. So I don't know. Make sure you check your school's policy for that too. Like if there is something that if you have to put it in so many days in advance. I don't know a whole lot about where you're going, Kayla. Like I don't know the closest schools or like CDEs or anything like that that they would do there. I just don't know. Like I thought we were the farthest east program in the northern tier, which I think we are, except for now, when you get there. So
just about as much as I do. So, we're in the same boat. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I would share a cautionary tale on the, and I appreciate Matt Snyder sharing that about Chuck and the CDL at Mifflinburg. But just remember that most all teaching contracts have a little phrase or clause in there that says other duties as assigned. And so if you have a great relationship, that's awesome. I've known ag teachers who had CDLs who didn't tell their school district they had a CDL because if they get short of a bus driver, if they own the buses, ag teachers could get pressed in the service, go do Route 3. You get that now. So I'm not saying it's always that way. And like, man, Mifflinburg, they love Chuck and Lindsay so much they would not do that to them, but you just have to be aware.
Yeah. I think you want to be cautious too if you do decide to go and do something like that. The only reason I kind of did it is because I always wanted to get my CDL anyway, but to get the bus driver's license is just a separate endorsement on your license. So you want to be a little bit careful with that. It does cost a fair amount of money to get your CDL license. I think it ended up costing about $1,200 or $1,300 to get a CDL license. Some teachers are just like, I don't want anything to do with it, and some teachers already have it. So to get a bus driver's license, though, is kind of your call. As a first-year teacher, would I get a bus driver's license? Probably not. Like, I would not worry about it. That'd be something that not to worry about until later on and figure out what you want to do with that. On the other hand, it is nice for, like, things going to ACES because then I don't have to pay for the bus driver to stay the night. So things like that.
I do have another question, unless someone else does. So obviously you have a different budget every year. But say you teach a forestry class one year, but you know you're going to teach horticulture the next year, and one costs more than the other to run. Let's say, will you budget some of that, like buy some of those supplies that one year, knowing you're going to teach that the next year, or like just request that like that could possibly change, knowing that that second year or that third, whatever, however the rotation goes, is going to be more than the other?
Yeah, if I know that I'm going to be teaching a different class, like if I was going to do that schedule, I would probably purchase some of the things on the year that off, if that makes sense, the year off that you're not, I'd purchase some. If you have the money in the budget to buy equipment and supplies, because we have supplies and equipment as two separate things. If you had the money there, I would buy some of them when you have it that year off. If you know it's going to cost more, so then I would purchase some of the next things the next year. Try to build up as much as you can to start with, and then the next couple years after you start, you should be able to stop buying quite as many things, because some of those things are of course going to be reusable. But if you're buying stuff that's consumable every single year, you're just going to have to try to budget it and figure out ahead what you're going to need. But yeah, if I was teaching a forestry class and I knew I needed 40 Biltmore sticks, and then you could purchase some of them one year and some another. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
So whenever you expanded to 2 teachers, did that expand your budget a little bit since just teaching some ag?
It kind of did a little bit, because before Sarah Beth got here, we had another teacher that was doing the same classes that she was doing. So I stopped teaching the animal science and vet science class because the other, like Sarah Beth teaches vet science, animal science, and she teaches biology. So we're both part of the science department. When we said, okay, we're going to go into animal science and vet science a little more in depth, we want to do some of these cool things with the kids. They said, okay, we're going to give you a couple extra $100 or $1,000 for supplies and lab kits and that kind of stuff, because it's kind of nice to be able to teach biology and vet science at the same time, because you're going over some of the same concepts. And I kind of look at it as, okay, some of these kids are learning biology, but now that they're in vet science, they're putting more hands-on application to what they learned in biology, because most of our biology kids are 9th and 10th grade, I guess. So they take vet science after they take animal science, so they'll take vet science in like 11th grade. But it did expand the budget a little bit to be able to do a few things, not by a lot of money, but for some money.
All right, folks, maybe one more question.
Or anything about whatever. It doesn't have to be about the budget.
Yeah, anything. All right. Well, we really appreciate you, Mr. Seinfeld, joining us tonight and the valuable information you shared. I know that on behalf of everyone here, I can say we really appreciate it, and it was good stuff. And I know that we're all walking away, hopefully we're all walking away with things that they can apply into their programs. So thank you so much. And like I mentioned earlier, feel free to stay on, but we're just going to go through some of our business at this point. And, but we really appreciate you joining us. It was very valuable.
No problem.
Kayla has her hand up.
Can you share those documents with us that you showed us?
I sure can.
At least the Excel document.
You want the Excel document? I can send that to Dr. Rice, and then she can send it out to you guys. That thing's awesome. When you get it figured out and dialed in the way you want it, it's pretty nice.
Awesome.
So,
thank you.
That'll work great. You send it to me, and I'll make sure they all get it.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much, everyone.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you. All right. So we are going to move on. Hopefully you can all see my screen. And this is what thought I was presenting to you before you started, but realized I didn't actually share my screen. So here it is. That's Mr. Seinfeld and Sarah Beth. So moving on, highlights from the weekly student teacher and cooperating teacher survey. So I apologize. The last 2 weeks, I know that there's been some emails that haven't been received through SurveyMonkey. Some people are getting them, some people aren't. You only have 1 week left. This is your last week, so hopefully it'll go through. But from what I gathered last week, and I do appreciate you all taking time and clicking on the link and doing it, some gems. A lot of the teachers have been very proud of the way that you've represented Ag Ed to stakeholders, whether it be through different trips you've been on, out on SAE visits, just representing their programs as well as just Ag Ed in general. They've been really proud of you. Another gem and an opportunity for you all, and some words of encouragement that were on a lot of the surveys, was just finishing strong, both on your end and their end, just wanting to have that. So here's an opportunity for you to spend the last 2 days making a strong finish, and we hope that you do that. And then also a lot of the cooperating teachers as well as yourself feel that you've been very reflective in the last few weeks in identifying strengths and weaknesses, but also employing different reflection strategies and just kind of being true in your reflection and really recognizing where growth could happen or where growth has happened. And so they've appreciated that. And on your surveys as well, you've mentioned that. So as we come to an end of our student teaching, there's always ways that we can be improving to become master teachers. And so some of these opportunities are more things that you can continue to work on as you move beyond your student teaching internship and into your actual career. And so one of the things that actually came out this week, more so than any other week, was just the time management and keeping a personal calendar up to date and making sure that you keep track of dates. And it's one of the things that you'll learn, especially if you're in the new and beginning teacher program here within Pennsylvania, that the importance of keeping a calendar, whether it be a digital or a paper one, just making sure that you put dates in there and just not relying on the old noggin. You definitely need to make sure you're putting things on paper or digitally so that you can keep track of everything and not miss deadlines. And just like as I said, as you move to more mastery, just make sure long-term instructional goals as far as when you're planning instruction, not looking just at the day, but how is this connecting to tomorrow and the next day, and making sure it's programmatic. You're reaching those goals and thinking long-term. And then last but not least, we're always working, no matter how long you've been teaching, on classroom management. So just some areas for you to think about as you move on and grow from. And you can always reach out to people like Mr. Seinfeld, who's been teaching a long time, anybody we've connected you with, anybody you meet along the way, and ask for help if you need it. Just like last night, Kayla joined us for the new and beginning teacher dinner meeting, and so did Miranda in Harrisburg. And hopefully they walked away, but that's a group of people they know now that they can reach out to and seek some help with some of these areas that they know they need to grow in. So with that, I'm going to open it up for any questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts that you all have.
I would share and remind everybody that, why do you go to a new and beginning teaching meeting is because you realize that so much of our profession is about relationships and how do you work with other people. I don't even know how else to say it. Relationships, underlined it.
I know Nate's joining us tomorrow night for the northern region. I'm super excited for Nate to be there. There's a lot of young teachers coming to that, so I encourage anyone else that's in that region to definitely come. Evie went to the one in the western region. Hers was structured a little differently, but still a really valuable meeting. She got to connect with some representatives out of Harrisburg, or not sure what his title is, but Scott Sheely out of Harrisburg, which is a strong connection to have. And so really valuable.
I have that email open, team, about where I sent you on April the 10th, said framing 10 days. And it was an extremely lengthy email. But I made the choice to put it all in one instead of sending multiple. So if you want to, I'd be glad to take questions to help you because you're on this call, feel confident. Really appreciate Kayla and Evie. They've given me their profile emails. So that means 2 of the 7 students have turned in the profile information. I enjoy getting that because the sooner I get all 7, I can write it up and figure out how I'm going to blast it out to the world, telling them how awesome you are and the impact that school-based ag education makes. So thanks for remembering that. If you need help, I could try to help you. Gave you examples of previous years, probably pretty clear. Kayla is jumping out of her seat.
Okay, 2 things. One, first question is that assignment 14? That profile?
Not in its entirety.
Okay, I just
So
need to,
assignment
that's my
14.
I'm working through all of them, making sure I got it. That's the one I have to go look back at. So
Let me read quickly with you. Assignment 14, ladies and gentlemen, is the last assignment, and it talks about contributions to the cohort.
oh, okay, different.
It says if you reach page 44 of your assignment handbook carefully, it talks about it. But some of the things that the cohort profile is part of that, but you also get to write your big picture reflective blog and then put that not only on your blog, but on the NAAE blog, because that's where kids who think they might want to be an ag major might read. Another example was some of you have taken quite a bit from the profession as you've borrowed, but maybe you've created something really cool and you've repackaged it. I ask that you share your best lesson in NAAE and that you label it a very specific way and you tag it. If you wanted to look at examples, you could go and look at the previous year's examples. They're right there for you. Just one way that we give back to the cohort.
Also, my second thing was, so Twitter, I personally do not want to go count every tweet.
And nobody asked you to,
But
Kayla.
hey, I'm just saying that's how I interpreted it. Okay. So I played around way longer than I should have. So you should be proud of this, Dr. Foster.
Okay.
Anyways, you can analyze your tweets from certain date to a certain date. So if anybody is interested in doing that, I can go back and figure out how to do it. But, cause I may have forgotten, but it's pretty easy to
Twitter
figure out.
analytics. Yeah.
Okay, Twitter Analytics. Go there. You can put January 9th through April 21st. It shows all the tweets. If you have random sassy tweets that do not deal with Ag Ed, you can delete them in Excel and just send the Ag Ed ones.
So to help recapture everybody, this is a point where which assignment number was that? That was the communications at the beginning. And you get to present that. It's intentionally left open. You might record just a number and you can say over the course of my 15-week internship, you might record interactions. Honestly, I left it open for you to present like you want. You could have made, like Kayla she figured out how to download her tweets, which is fun. They provide that's free and available. She could have then made a word cloud. That would have been interesting. And she could have just thrown that in there. Fine. I don't care. It was a way for y'all to capture how are you engaging in that environment. I will use this opportunity to do a reminder that today's Wednesday. Tomorrow night is a Teach Ag chat, and it's with the CASE teachers. So I don't know if you saw the questions, but it's going to be one of those that, like last year was the first year that they used the CASE lead teacher. So they unpack more. They take all the teachers who are going to lead these CASE institutes in the summer to Minneapolis and do some training with them. And they wanted to learn how to use Twitter to engage learners and to just talk about it. And so last year was the first time they did it. And so you had like 100 ag teachers on it. It's our biggest one, and it just blows up. So they're doing it Thursday night, and I'm sure it'll be same. So it'll be a fun one to be a part of because there will be a lot of perspectives of what I call adaptive, innovative teachers sharing out on Twitter, some for the first time. And those question prompts, George pushed them out. They'll be out there somewhere. If they're already out there on Twitter, CASE has been promoting it for a couple of months. But it's not about CASE. It's about like how to use questioning. It's a good. I'm excited about it. Other questions about the one email as we look at you being back on campus on Monday and having clarity of expectations so that everybody's in a good mood. Knowing that at 3 p.m. on Monday, April the 24th, I'm expecting to see 7 bright smiling faces in Ferguson 214. We'll provide a space for you to submit your assignments and your lesson plan books that we'll review when we have the opportunity. We'll have some healthy snacks, I believe, there that night. The session will go from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. The tasks that we're going to engage in on that first night Dr. Ross, as the instructor of 313, has asked me to facilitate, and we will review some feedback on portfolios. So you get to bring that. You're going to do some peer feedback, peer evaluation, and then we're going to do an opportunity to capture your feedback as a cohort because, like you, we constantly reflect. How how can we continue to try to make this the best teacher preparation program possible? And I'm sure you have some ideas. So we'll make packets and we'll do a little focus group activity to capture your feedback on how each class relates to another class and how it helped prepare you for student teaching. And that's one piece of data that we take into consideration with, say, data from experienced teachers. And what's funny for me is to see what y'all deem important versus what a first year versus a 5-year versus a 15-year. Usually there's some things that come out the same, but also sometimes it changes. Kayla asked a question, is there a size or concern about the infographic that you are using to document for your action research poster? 1114 would be great. And to help you understand that, we want something that we can put up at banquet next to your portfolio on Tuesday night so that those future students can look and say, God, I wish I was as smart and as good as Nathan. I hope I can do the things like Evie, and I hope that I can be catching up with Matt Schneider so they can keep trying and working. And then what I would do is I would print off one that was 8.5, maybe that size that you indicated. We'll work with that. I can't remember what's exactly in the assignment handbook, but maybe you print off one that's 8.5 by 11 that you put in your portfolio because it becomes an easy conversation starter when I'm talking to someone about how do I use data in my instruction, or am I comfortable interpreting data, or what do you believe about teacher research and teacher reflection. It becomes a really easy way to set y'all up for success.
I just have 2 questions for you.
Yes, Miranda.
So the first question is, do each of our assignments have to be on separate sheets of paper? Like, so for the Twitter one, if I'm just recording the number and maybe a short blurb about that, I don't think that'll take up a whole page. So is it okay?
No, Miranda, I'm going to be a jerk on this because I'm going to tell you why. We're going to sit there and grade those, and for the assignment portfolio, the key is how easy do you organize it for us to quickly grade. So what I anticipate seeing is one notebook with 14 tabs and going from tab to tab, giving you either full credit, no credit for each assignment. I gave you our rubric to kind of keep, I don't dig too deep. If you have it, is it there? Did you meet the expectation? I hate grades, especially at this point. If y'all haven't figured it out, what's the point?
Yeah. Don't like them.
No, flip to it and say, boom, she did it. It's right there. She gets the credit. And if you don't have documentation of it, you drop a letter grade. That's kind of how we rock it.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't want to use up too much paper, but I just wanted to know and make sure I clarified that. And
Thank you for asking,
yep.
Ryan.
And then my second question, which really isn't that important, but it just came to my mind, so I wanted to ask it. Next week, are we expected to dress professionally for that? Or at least for the time, when we're at Penn State. I'm sure at Pittsburgh we'll have to do that, but.
So that's always funny when a student asks me that, Miranda, because I wonder what they're thinking of what they expect to wear to come to a university and represent themselves on campus. Dr. Ross, of course, will provide you an agenda, and I believe on each day she indicates appropriate. But a big picture thing that I would share and expect as a student-teacher coordinator who talks to administrators frequently would be that you address teacher appropriate at all times because you are a representative of our profession.
Okay, gotcha.
So you all will be receiving, I was going to talk about this later, but since it's been brought up now, you all will be receiving the agenda for the 24th through the 29th by Friday before the end of day. Before I leave work, you will be receiving that agenda. As Dr. Foster just mentioned, each day shares the agenda, what we will be doing, and then also what you will need to wear. There are days where you'll see casual dresses, business casual is appropriate, but you need to look to see what we're doing so you wear the appropriate footwear, that type of thing. But that will all be outlined in there. And where we're going and where we're staying and all that kind of stuff.
Dr. Ross has worked really hard, and I'm really excited about the opportunities that we have next week. It's going to be fun. A lot of first-time things, and that makes it fun for me.
I have a question pertaining to the infographic poster thing. I have already made my infographic. It is the size of a regular paper sheet, unless I wanted to cut the sides off here. Is this too big or too small? And is the infographic poster the same thing? Because I don't have per se a poster. But I have my infographic, and it's on cardstock. It's not on just like printer paper.
Evie, I just need you to meet the expectations of that assignment as listed in the assignment handbook. And so if you feel that you've done that, I'm comfortable with that. Does that answer questions or no? Because I can pull up, as I'm doing right now, the 2017 handbook. And I can flip to this assignment, which is the geez, Daniel, where is it? I'm a little bit tired today, team. There it is. Page 14. Share the results of an infographic, deadlines, evaluations. Be prepared to share. And as I quickly read through this, it says on the bottom of page 14, the poster should include all essential elements of your project with great conciseness and clarity. It should include your problem statement, your implementation schedule, your narrative on what you identified the problem, and what did you find out. We're going to display it. And so as I read that, Evie, to answer more specifically, it does not indicate a size. So if you are comfortable with sharing an 8.5 by 11, I believe that you've met that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. What other questions can I answer? I was kind of looking at that email. I put on there no later than Sunday, April 23rd, I think, for your profile email. I would love to be able to say your class had them all in by Friday. That'd make it really nice, maybe. So I'm going to throw that gauntlet out there, see if you could pick it up. It's going to be cool. You're going to be kicking it with other candidates from Murray State. First time we worked with Murray State and Kentucky, huh, Dr. Ross? I'm excited that dynamic and interaction occurs.
Yeah, we're all excited. This is going to be great, guys. All right, we're moving on. Open call over. So, Moment of Zen. This week, our last and final Moment of Zen is brought to us today by Ms. Miranda Kane. And so she is going to do it from her travels.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. So my moment of Zen, some of you, okay, so let's rewind back to one of our seminars where we were talking about a lesson that we really struggled with. So some of you were in my group for that, and I talked about the animal science udder anatomy lesson. And one of the parts of that lesson was they had to make a song. So like they had to pick an existing song and change the words to remember parts of the anatomy and stuff. And that part of the lesson worked really well. It's the other parts that didn't work quite so well. But what I wanted to share about that was while the students were working on it, of course, there's a lot of students that don't really want to sing in front of the class. It's not something that they always look forward to necessarily. But I told them, I was like, you know what, I will sing with you. Because I basically was saying that I'm not going to make you guys do something that I myself wouldn't do if I were in their shoes. So I told them I'll sing with you if that's what it takes, but I want to see you guys really push yourselves and risk boldly and stuff, which are part of my expectations for them. And one of my students who it's kind of a problem student sometimes. He's a good student, but there's just a little issues there. But he said to me, he was like, I really appreciated that you said that and that you would be willing to do that. He's like, not a lot of teachers would be willing to do that. So that to me, like I had to stop for a second and say like, wow, like, I wasn't expecting that kind of response. That's just kind of who I am. Like that's my philosophy in that way. So I didn't even think twice about it. But I guess my, I don't know if I could say advice, but something to share with each of you is that maybe students don't always come right out and say that kind of stuff to you, but that they appreciate the little things that you do and the time that you spend and whatever it is that you do that makes it more effective and easier for them to understand the content or just enjoy your class in general. So I was lucky that I got to hear that, and I hope each of you had a similar experience in that way. But that would be my moment of Zen. So thank you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Miranda. It's a good one to end on. So tweets of the week. And as I was looking through the tweets, I just couldn't decide on one. And I thought, you know what, this is our last one. And so I put a tweet from each one of you on there because I thought that you all kind of ended the semester tweeting out strong. And so I thought I'd recognize all of you. And I appreciate the variety that you see here of different things that maybe be class projects, class instruction, the ways you're teaching, sharing out something that like Evie shared out, a quote, a resource. So I always like that, seeking out ways that you're expanding your understanding about things. And then Nate, always good for sharing something maybe comical. So I thought that was good stuff. So I appreciated it. So
That is
tweets of the week for everybody.
That's a fun collage.
Yeah, I thought it was. All right, so important dates. Basically, tomorrow night, Northern Region New and Beginning Teacher Workshop, which I didn't realize I cut off there. Really good stuff is shared at that meeting, and if you can come, please come for those of you that have not attended one. These are really valuable, and I hope Miranda, Evie, and Kayla can speak to that they gained useful information at them. I know last night we had a really good time down in Harrisburg, and so I believe we will have just as much fun tomorrow night. So just another plug for y'all to attend. That's a big date to remember. And then next week, post-internship seminar. It's going to be a good week. It's going to be, I think, a really good week in the sense of just growing and reflection as well. So your thought of the week is, let us remember, one book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world. So you're all doing good things and probably making more change in someone's life than you know.
I almost promised that. Guys, I'll stay on the phone as long as you want. If there's anything or questions you have that would help for individual consultation.
So with that, here on the screen, you can see this is basically just a snapshot of what's going to happen next week. Again, I'll have a I have a very specific agenda that is going to be sent out to you. This is just very general. And so I do hope that you take time to look at that as you pack and prepare. I will inform you now, just so you can get an idea. If you need to think about it a little bit more, there will be one meal that you will be responsible for, which will be Friday night, which will be in Pittsburgh. You guys have the evening off. You are on your own for a meal in Pittsburgh. And Thursday afternoon, we are looking to do something, and so you may need some cash for that. So I would suggest bringing some funds for that.
It's going to be a blast. So here's the dealio. As she looks at the whole week, you're going to have to feed yourself supper Monday night, breakfast on Tuesday, breakfast on Wednesday, and then Friday night supper. But
yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I forgot about the 2 days before we leave.
It's pretty good, though. I'm kind of stoked with putting y'all on the feed bill, putting y'all on the food train.
Any questions? Just looking at this after what we've talked about, anything I can answer tonight?
This Mystery Thursday sounds a lot like the get lost but end up snow tubing situation.
I can promise you that we will not snow tube.
Yeah, no snow tubing.
Some of these things, oh my gosh, Jasmine Graybill, get out of the picture. What?
Hey, look at those sunglasses.
So seriously, it's 6:25, 5 minutes left. We obviously are looking forward to having you back as a cohort and group to interact. I would love to talk to anybody, whenever you got, we've tried really hard to limit the email sharing, but a lot of cool things are out there.
So if there's no questions with that, I'm going to stop the recording. And if you need to speak with anybody, we can remain on the line. But we hope you have a great rest of the week. 2 days left, folks. Make it good. Make it strong. Finish great. And we will see you on Monday.